Bitcoin just got slammed below $90,000 and I just went long. In today's video, I'll be taking you through my most recent Bitcoin trade setup. I'll also be taking you through some crucial analytics that we need to pay attention to in the crypto industry, and we'll be discussing whether or not that was the local bottom. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So first and foremost, here's the trade that I published this morning. We entered just below $90,000. Right around $89,890, and right now we're currently sitting just above $20,000 in profit on this most recent Bitcoin trade. Now, this isn't a guarantee that that was the bottom, but it was an excellent opportunity that I was eyeing for quite some time. If you don't believe me, here are my updates in my group as the price action was developing. Yesterday, Bitcoin was essentially just chopping around, and I was looking for an entry for a swing Bitcoin long. We talked about this in my previous video. Now, I said I'm happy to sit out until there is more clarity. This morning, I woke up and we formed a little bit of a double bottom below $90,000, touching a critical zone for Bitcoin. And with that, I went ahead and entered a Bitcoin long sub 90K because it's an excellent risk to reward here. We'll be going over some tools as to why I took this trade and what I think could be happening next in the market. By the way, if you want to join my free group where I share all of my own personal trade setups, you do have that first link in the description down below. DM me the word premium and I'd be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. Now, what I want to discuss first and foremost is that there are no guarantees that this was the bottom. I'm likely going to be moving my stop at break even and see if this trade can play out. That is how I've been trading this market. If you're part of my group, you know exactly what my strategy is. I take small risk, high risk to reward trades, and then I end up moving my stop at break even, especially with these kind of market conditions. Let's see how the price action develops, but right now, on the shorter time frames, it is looking relatively positive. Now, only time will tell. I'm a trader, so I saw this risk to reward opportunity, I shared it with my members, and there you go. Right now, we are technically still below the yearly open. And if you watched yesterday's video, we discussed the fact that we could go below the yearly open, and then on a reclaim, it would be a strong risk to reward opportunity to go long. That being said, I did a little bit of knife catching myself. I entered sub 90K. At this point in time, what we really want to see here for a strong confirmation that that was potentially the bottom is for us to immediately go ahead and reclaim that yearly open, which is just below $93,000. If we can start reclaiming this level and holding it as support, in my opinion, we will likely move much higher out of here. Now, when I saw this kind of price action, I had to go ahead and act quick. Excellent risk to reward, and I'm happy thus far, but we'll have to see how it plays out. There are no guarantees that we cannot be moving lower from here, but I took a stab at the long and here we are. At this point in time, it's quite simple. I just want to see us reclaim that yearly open for the bulls to have some kind of chance. This is a pivotal support zone for Bitcoin. If we start losing this level and we can't go ahead and reclaim the yearly open, at that point in time, we will likely continue to roll over. Now, this is of course from a trading perspective. Now, from a spot positioning, we're having the same exact conversation here. If we start to get continued weekly closes below $98,000, I will be offloading some of my spot Bitcoin that I accumulated sub 30K. What I'm looking at here though is you can see we are higher time frame right at a support level. If we're going to bounce, it's going to be from around these zones. I hate to repeat myself on this topic, but it's not over until it's over. I will make sure to keep you updated as things develop. From a trading perspective, as I said, sub 90K was an excellent risk to reward opportunity, and I just so happened to be up when the price dipped below that level. Therefore, I executed that trade on that potential double bottom. Now, something I really need to bring to your attention is, of course, the stock market. If the stock market continues to roll over here, likely Bitcoin makes new lows. We cannot ignore that fact, but we also need to go ahead and discuss Bitcoin dominance. This is going to be a critical one. For those of you that have been watching me on YouTube for quite some time, you know that I have been vocally bearish on altcoins against Bitcoin in particular. And you can see throughout this run, we have really been directionally correct. Now, at this point in time, what you'll notice is we're actually getting rejected at the bull market support band for Bitcoin dominance. What does this mean? It means that altcoins are actually showing relative strength against Bitcoin. Now, if you've been following me and you have not been allocated into altcoins whatsoever this cycle, this is potentially a good risk to reward opportunity. I will repeat that. risk to reward. It doesn't mean that you should just go max long any altcoin, but what it does mean is it's quite impressive that altcoins are holding up better than Bitcoin. As Bitcoin dumps to sub $90,000, altcoins have been outperforming. The dumps have been far less significant. Now, of course, this could be to do with the October liquidation event. Altcoins got completely annihilated, and so right now they're showing a little bit of relative outperformance, but we cannot ignore the fact that when quantitative tightening ends, which is as of December 1st, that may be where altcoins start really turning around against Bitcoin. Now, in terms of bounces, how do you trade this? Because I am approaching this from a trading perspective. I am not bag holding any altcoins. It would be if Bitcoin can continue to bounce from around this zone. Let's say that sub 90K, what we just got, confirms as the bottom, and Bitcoin can go ahead and break back above the yearly open, and then we can target this 98K region. It's at that point in time that I think that altcoins would continue to outperform, and it could trigger some very interesting longs in this market. Now, I'm not willing to go aggressive into altcoins quite yet because we need to see what Bitcoin does. Was it a good entry sub 90K? Yes, and of course, if you're in my premium group, I will share my exact personal trade setups. However, this doesn't confirm the bottom quite yet. I want to see continuation here. If we don't see continuation to the upside, if we can't reclaim that yearly open, it's at that point in time that we will likely see altcoins struggle a little bit more. Just need to make that extremely clear. But despite my continued bearish stance on altcoins over the past few months, these past few weeks have actually been positive in terms of relative performance compared to Bitcoin. Now, I also wanted to go over some analytics in today's video. Of course, the Fear and Greed Index, this is something that everyone mentions, but I just wanted to be extremely vocal about the fact that just because we are in extreme fear, it doesn't mean that we have to immediately turn around. When we're in extreme fear, we can stay at that level for quite some time as Bitcoin drifts lower. However, when there's max euphoria and there's tons of greed in the market, we can stay at these greedy levels for quite some time as well. Something to consider. Just because the Fear and Greed Index is at 11, it doesn't mean that we're just going to immediately pump. That's not how you should play this. This is often a lagging indicator. Now let's go over some of the other metrics that I want to discuss in today's video. The White House posted this because President Trump will be speaking at the McDonald's summit on the economy and more, but I just thought this was funny because is this their signal to tell all the crypto bros to go and get a job at McDonald's? Anyways, let's go to the more important ones. Here you can see that we typically do get relief rallies in this market. It's not all doom and gloom. Now I can understand some of you that may think that the top is 100% confirmed, completely fair. However, we do not simply go down in a straight line. There are often some significant bounces in this market before we head lower. And just to be perfectly clear, on a relief rally, I would be offloading some of my crypto. Now, from a trading perspective, I already covered that. But the point is, we likely get these relief rallies even if the bear market is confirmed. Now, something that I wanted to bring to your attention, that is the Bitfinex whales. A lot of people have started talking about this metric, and it's very interesting because these whales tend to scale into longs as the price goes lower, and they often catch the meat of the move. They are not stopping building their massive longs, and you can see this on the BTC longs chart on TradingView. Every single time that we have these significant dumps, they start building out longs and they catch most of that upside move. This is the most aggressive accumulation of longs throughout the entire cycle. They are either dumb or they're banking heavily on another move higher. Every move lower on Bitcoin, they add at a faster degree, which is exactly what happened at the last two corrections for Bitcoin. The 1 week RSI on this push-up is the highest it's been for years. So far, within all the data we have on them, they have called it correctly. I would not fade this. Again, it doesn't mean that we necessarily just explode through here. I'm a trader, so I have my invalidations. I can't just simply scale into infinite longs as these Bitfinex whales are doing, but this is a pretty good indication, in my opinion, that we will be getting a relief rally. The Binance Bitcoin stablecoin reserve ratio is dropping. Historically, this is a bullish sign, and we do see the price reverse whenever this occurs. Something else I want to show you, the short-term holder supply in profit loss ratio is now at all all-time lows. This means that the short-term holders are indeed at a loss, and typically when we get this low here, we do see a significant move upwards afterwards. Don't shoot the messenger. This is just what the data would suggest. Now, I also want to discuss the fact that whales are buying the dip as small holders are offloading. We tend to see this kind of dynamic between small holders and whales. Whenever we get significant corrections, whales tend to pile into Bitcoin and they hold for the move upwards. This is something that you do need to consider. And right now, wallets holding over 1,000 Bitcoins jumped 2.2% to 1,384, which is the highest in 4 months. But I want to also give you a balanced view of the market. Look, all of these metrics could signal that we are indeed close to a bottom. However, taking a look at the Coinbase Premium Index, look at this. This is absolutely horrible, and it's not what you want to see if we are to see more continued upside. Now, of course, this can change at any moment. If you don't know what the Coinbase Index is, let me just read it for you. Basically, it measures the price difference between Bitcoin traded on Coinbase, which is of course a leading US exchange, and the global market average. It serves as an important indicator of US capital flows, institutional activity, and overall market sentiment. Now, the positive premium would indicate that Bitcoin is trading at a higher price on Coinbase, which usually suggests strong buying pressure in the US market, increased institutional or regulated capital inflows, ample US dollar liquidity, and optimistic investor sentiment. The negative premium, the complete opposite. When it's trading lower on Coinbase, this typically reflects selling pressure in the US market, declining risk appetite amongst investors, and rising risk aversion or capital inflows. So, right now, we're seeing that this Coinbase premium is in a deep negative. We want to see this reverse if we are to bounce from around this zone. And I know there's a time gap between my YouTube videos and how I update my premium group. So if you want to know exactly what I'm doing in this market, move by move, remember you do have the first link in my description down below. I can't film a video every hour telling you exactly what's happening. Yesterday we talked about potentially going below the yearly open and then trying to long it on a reclaim. Well, if you're waiting for that trigger, we have not reclaimed the yearly open quite yet. And next up, let's take a look at the liquidation heat map. You can see that there's tons of liquidity over here above $93,000 to be grabbed. Now, can we grab this and then go ahead and go lower? Of course, that's a possibility. This may be a potential area where I would consider taking profits on my most recent Bitcoin long. I also wanted to show you this chart. Guys, it's abundantly clear that on the 30-day time frame, same exact picture, way more cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market, and I still firmly believe that we will be grabbing this upside liquidity. It's not a question of if, but rather a question of when. Now, you can see that over here on the left, right around 91K, there is tons of liquidity to be grabbed as well because people are trying to catch this move. I'm obviously happy we got in sub 90K, but again, I'm not ruling out another move lower before we go ahead and move higher. The number one thing that I'm looking at right now is to reclaim this yearly open. If we fail here, it's highly likely that Bitcoin continues to roll over. Now, I also wanted to discuss a couple last things before we wrap up this video. Let me just give you a no bullshit, fantastic reality check by Mr. Anderson. Absolutely love this tweet. If you want to know why Bitcoin is going down, it's not the headlines, it's not the influencers, it's not the excuses people post after the fact. Bitcoin is going down because there are more sellers than buyers. That's it. That's the whole reason. This candle doesn't need a conspiracy theory. It doesn't need macro gymnastics. It doesn't need social media hopium or doom. Price leads narrative, not the other way around. Every time you see a big red candle, the timeline suddenly becomes a library of explanations that didn't exist 24 hours earlier. It's the ETF flows, it's the miners, it's manipulation, it's the funding rates, it's the macro, it's the halving cycle. No, those are stories people attach after the selling has already happened. What this chart is showing you clearly is displacement, an imbalance between aggression and absorption. Sellers are simply lifting the offer faster than buyers can step in, momentum favoring downside continuation. You don't need to overthink what the candles already told you. This is what real traders understand. Price writes the story, volume tones the story, narrative just narrates it. And when price is moving like this, with speed, momentum, and follow through, it's not because the market discovered some brand new theory. It's because it discovered a lack of buyer. Everything else is just commentary. And I couldn't have said this better myself. Now, something else that we need to discuss. Just remember, no one actually has a crystal ball and knows what will happen. I've been wrong plenty of times and will be wrong in the future. This is from Benjamin Cowan, who has been pretty spot on this cycle. Reminder, it's the same thing for me. I will be wrong. I can promise you that. That is a guarantee in this market. I'm just sharing with you how I'm operating on a day-by-day basis, and you have to understand that there will be moments where I am wrong. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I had this thesis called the summer chop thesis, where we would essentially just chop around, and then Bitcoin tore me a new one, and we essentially made a brand new all-time high. So please remember that. I would highly recommend that you pick a group of people that you enjoy watching their content, you keep them in a category, and you only listen to these select few people. Then you can also make your own opinions of the market, and that's how you should be navigating it. I would never blindly follow anyone. Have a couple people you watch, stick to them, form your own analysis, and that's how you should be navigating this market. And that sums up today's quick video. There's tons of metrics suggesting that the bottom could be forming here, but ultimately we need to see the Coinbase premium start turning around if we are to get sustained bid to the upside. We are still below the yearly open, and so until we can reclaim that level, I'm not confident in saying that the bottom is absolutely confirmed. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I wore my red shirt today. I hope you can appreciate that as Bitcoin dips below $90,000. As always, I have my leverage trading tutorial right here, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.